Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Today we're going to do another episode of the Setlist Snubs series. In this series, we're going to examine a handful of songs from different bands that don't get played live very much. However, I'm going to give you some reasons why I feel like those underrated songs actually deserve to get played live more often than they do. If there's someone specific you guys want me to talk about in a future episode of this series, please leave a comment down below. I'll check your feedback. Today we're going to talk about some deep cuts from Nickelback.
Oh, it burns!
I expect comments like, I'd rather eat dirt than listen to Nickelback. I'd rather slam my hand in a door than listen to Nickelback. I'd rather pour acid in my ears than listen to Nickelback. I'd rather have my teeth yanked out one by one than listen to Nickelback. I'd rather get back with my ex than listen to Nickelback. Arguably the number one hated band on the face of the earth, right? Why? The most common reason appears to be people labeling this band as cookie-cutter rock, never deviating from a predetermined destination. Completely rigid, locked in place, unmoving. In other words, all their songs sound the same. Well, is that such a bad thing? Just think, AC/DC has sounded the same for a lot longer than Nickelback, and nobody ever complains about them. At least they're recognizable. Considering they have managed to sell in excess of 50 million records globally, apparently Nickelback must be doing something right. You don't accidentally compile those kind of sales figures. Personally, I've never had a problem with Nickelback. I've listened to all their albums since Silver Side Up. Sure, sometimes I roll my eyes at their lyrical choices, but it never reaches a point that surpasses mild annoyance. My guess is, taking a bit of psychology called mirroring into account, hordes of individuals copy disdain toward Nickelback to fit in with others. Everyone else is doing it, I should too. It's much easier to agree with one perspective than to rock the boat. However, I refuse to let anyone else pressure me into loving or hating a particular music group. I want to decide for myself, come to my own conclusions. I won't ever be ashamed of who I like. Not going to happen. At the end of the day, my judgment is the only one that matters to me. I won't lose sleep if the type of music I indulge in offends someone else. Now, before I regale you with wadded up and discarded Nickelback tracks, let me remind you of reasons why all bands, not just Nickelback, act over the moon about certain songs and spite others live. I wade through these reasons every time in case new viewers show up, so if you've seen a Setlist Snubs episode before, kindly skip ahead a few minutes. The first reason is casual fans soak up radio-friendly singles like a sponge. For example, with Nickelback, Photograph, Rockstar, Animals, Far Away, etc. Unfortunately, casual fans turn a blind eye to tunes which lack substantial notoriety. Suffice to say, they're missing out big time. Another reason would be unrelenting pressure, and even fellow band members shadows bands on tours, egging them on to concentrate on their most positively acclaimed tracks at concerts to make sure the fans there have a good time. Fans who raved about what the set list entailed are more likely to spend their money on tickets to a future show, so financial incentive plays a critical role. Reason 3 involves tunes peeled off albums that didn't match the hype generated. To be perfectly clear, that pile of songs probably won't be dug up because the vast majority of fans would outright dismiss them. The fourth reason delves into a situation in which bands become so agitated through constant repetition of a song they fabricated that they scrap it from the set list without a second thought. They can't take it anymore. That's not uncommon. Reason 5 highlights the contrast between casual fans and hardcore fans, specifically from a size standpoint. Casual fans fill up a lot more space versus hardcore fans. As a result, due to a numerical advantage, casual fans typically get the final say in which songs are declared the finalist prior to each performance. The final reason evokes some tragic elements, since some songs are automatically ineligible before they even arrive at the starting line. Basically, technological enhancements brought about in the studio are so prevalent within certain tunes' chemistry that they aren't up to snuff live. Stages contain limited resources compared to studios, so it would be an absolutely sketchy move. Moving forward, I'd like to introduce you to a few stats I became aware of thanks to Setlist.fm. I'll put a link to Setlist.fm in the description. To find Setlist.fm the conventional way, simply Google any band or solo artist your heart desires, followed by the words tour statistics, and tap on the first search result. On Setlist.fm, more information than you can fathom will be waiting related to songs, albums, and tours. According to Setlist.fm, Nickelback initially toured in 1996, and their success story, as it turns out, hinges on How You Remind Me, which has plenty to brag about considering it has been the main attraction at 622 songs thus far. To deconstruct this burly number, imagine you were asked to listen to How You Remind Me 622 times in a row, non-stop, without any breaks allowed. How long would it take? Math says 139,950 seconds, or 1.6 days. Now that I've provided a snapshot of Nickelback's history, let's turn to the unappreciated roster itself. I picked 5 different tracks, each off a different album, ranked in descending order, and I'll leave a link to all 5 songs in the description as well. As always, you're more than welcome to leave other underrated Nickelback songs in the comments. First up, we got Flat on the Floor, part of the Long Road album. It did relatively well, moving in an upward trajectory until it flatlined in 2010 at 117 times. Hasn't been played since. It currently comes in at 19% versus the top song, How You Remind Me. However, it's actually about 200% more exciting than How You Remind Me. Just a whirlwind of a tune, barely scraping past the 2-minute mark, but the ear-splitting guitars and rampaging vocals will quickly cause you to become attached to Flat on the Floor. I love the pace because it seems like Nickelback didn't waste a second. They hit the ground running. Flat on the Floor could be the perfect buddy for you to ring in the new year, especially if you're drinking vodka. Next I went with Shakin' Hands, which belongs to Dark Horse. Shakin' Hands has only met the live crowd 55 times, and that's too bad. It kind of resurrects the raunchier Nickelback lyrics that were a staple of earlier records. Nickelback has never been afraid of pushing the envelope, so to speak, seeing how far they could go. These lyrics basically detail a woman who relies on her body for monetary gain instead of her intellect. It's not exactly subtle. For instance, she's done Everyone Once, and everyone knows you gotta get a little dirty when you're digging for gold. There were quite a few A's added, so those pieces would serve as prime opportunities to get the crowd involved. Overall, I think this song directly underlines a key issue facing our culture, objectifying women. Shakin' Hands doesn't offer any solutions, but identifying the problem is half the battle, right? Well, the upcoming 2 songs, I'm just gonna lump them together because, to be honest, they're extremely interchangeable. Similar to Twin Magic for my WWE fans, you could substitute one song under everyone's noses. I'm referring to Next Contestant, contained on the All the Right Reasons album, and Just For, bundled with Silver Side Up. Both leave tremendous room for improvement live at merely 9 times and 4 times respectively. And the main crux of both songs happens to be jealousy, possibly the most potent emotion of all. Chad does a remarkable job of channeling the telltale signs of jealousy through his voice. I dig the funky edge he projects using the words "onto her" in Next Contestant. It raises the cool factor, in my opinion. Just For easily eclipses Next Contestant in terms of gore, though. Chad more or less threatens to dismember any guy who flirts with his girlfriend. Depending on the girl, she would either view this as sweet or overkill. As I listened to Just For, a scene from SpongeBob flashed through my mind. Remember the episode where Mr. Krabs promises the Flying Dutchman to be generous to avoid going into Davy Jones' locker? Near the end of the episode, Mr. Krabs flips out. he goes totally berserk and threatens to rip a guy's arm off unless he drops a penny. That scene sums up Just 4, and to a lesser extent Next Contestant, in a nutshell. Each song also features those grinding guitar riffs that have become synonymous with Nickelback. Of the two, I'd give a slight advantage to Just 4. As a matter of fact, the temperamental Just 4 won me over today. It's my favorite of the 5 combatants. If I had to choose a Nickelback song to replay, I would immediately want Just 4. Finally, Holding On to Heaven, the youngest in Nickelback's collection, off Here and Now, will bring us home. Holding On to Heaven's prayers haven't been answered yet because a 0 stamp is still there. For whatever reason, Nickelback refuses to give it a chance live. You know, fans tend to think of Far Away as the top heart-melting offering from this band, but I actually believe Holding On to Heaven has the upper hand. It creates romantic vibes the whole time. Nickelback really dug deep here with this one. They can handle soft songs when the situation calls for it. Even if you just sang the chorus of Holding On to Heaven to your crush, I'm sure you would get a heart-eyed emoji back and maybe a relationship too. This tune would suit a wedding just fine as well. If nothing else, I hope after hearing these 5 songs, you hate Nickelback a little less than you did before. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Until then, rock on. And Happy New Year. Please shout Jumanji tonight.